Mike.
And I'm Kyle.
We're with Cold Fusion Nitrous. We're here to do an installation on a 1999 LS1 Camaro. We're going to be installing a single nozzle wet kit.
When you purchase an LS1 kit single nozzle, this is what it will look like in your package. 10-pound bottle, 10-pound bottle brackets. The tools needed for the job will be an electric drill, a flathead screwdriver, a 1/2-inch drill bit, wire strippers, wire crimpers, a large crescent wrench, a small crescent wrench, a test light, and some Teflon paste. Here you have your two 12-inch hoses, your wire, 40-amp relay, one 15-foot feed line, an assortment of jets, one nitrous solenoid, one fuel solenoid, one nozzle with your nozzle holder, your nitrous fittings, your fuel fittings, your bottle gauge, your 20-inch fuel line, your solenoid bracket with screws, your wide open throttle switch with bracket and screws, your toggle switch, your 4AN bottle nut with washer, an assortment of electrical connectors, your two 10-pound bottle brackets, your one 10-pound bottle.
Now we're going to go over all the prep work before you even pop the hood.
The first thing we're going to do is prep the bottle. Let's go over what we got. We got the 4AN bottle nut, your washer, a gauge. The tools needed is going to be a small crescent, a large crescent, and some Teflon paste.
Well, now that we're ready to go ahead and put the bottle nut on the bottle, let's get started.
All right, what it's going to come with, Mike, is you got a bottle nut and you got your washer. Now this assembly, you just put the washer in the bottle nut and screw the bottle nut onto the bottle. No Teflon paste is required for this assembly at all. Once you've got it on there, take your large crescent wrench and just tighten it right up. Stop. Now all you have to do is just tighten it up.
That's pretty tight.
That's all it takes. Now what we're going to do is install the gauge. Now this has an NPT thread, so it is going to take some Teflon paste, apply just a little bit onto the thread. Wipe it a little bit around the threads and apply it to the small port on the valve. Tighten it up by hand. Take your small crescent and tighten it up. Now what we're going to show you are the bottle brackets. If you can see the bottle brackets, you've got two different sizes. One is larger than the other as far as elevation, and there's a reason behind that. If you notice, the dip tube is going down at an angle to get maximum performance. Now that you've seen that we have the bottle mounted in the brackets, this is the proper way of mounting the bottle. You can also mount the bottle in the upright position like this. That is acceptable. What is not acceptable is to mount the bottle inverted. You should never, never, never mount the bottle like this.
All right, Kyle, we've got the solenoids and the fittings. Let's go ahead and prep those for install.
All right, I think it's a good idea, but the first thing we need to do is first we need to identify the ports. There are two ports on the solenoid. You have an out and you have an in, clearly marked on the solenoids. Okay, next we have the nitrous solenoid and we have the fuel. The first thing, let's go ahead and just do the fuel. All right, Dealing with the fittings, it is very, very important that you put Teflon paste on the NPT of the thread. That needs the Teflon paste. The other end is the A end. That is where your hose will be connected. Do not put any Teflon paste on the A end side of the fitting.
It seals against the flare.
Right, that's a 37-degree flare. It automatically seals when you put the hose on the fitting. Now let's go ahead and put a Teflon paste on the NPT thread, and we'll put that on the fuel solenoid. Fuel is for red.
Alright Kyle, now that we've got the fittings installed on the solenoids, let's go ahead and install the solenoids to the solenoid bracket.
Alright.
Alright Kyle, now that we've got the solenoids mounted to the solenoid bracket, let's go over a few details. Number one, make sure that the outlets for both solenoids are on the same side as well as the inlets, so that way the nitrous and fuel go in the same direction. Next, as we turn and rotate, you will notice that we went ahead and grounded one wire from each solenoid to ground. The reason why we went ahead and did this is we know that we will be mounting the bracket to a metal surface on this 99 LS1 Camaro. Alright Kyle, now that we've got the bottle prepped, let's go ahead and determine the location that we'd like to mount this.
Alright, in the back here is, we can look at a couple options. What we're going to do is, in this application, I think the best way, if you're going to mount it in the trunk, in the bottom down here, you're going to want to be able to mount it as close facing forward as possible. In this particular application, this would probably be your best bet for mounting it down here.
I would agree.
All right.
Now with the Camaros, you do have several different options. You can mount it down here real low. You can also mount it where the spare tire is located, or in some cases you can even mount it here.
Right. It does take a little bit more work if you want to mount it on top. You've got the gas tank in the way, so there will be a little bit more work in that particular application.
Let's see what the customer wants.
All right.
By customer request, we have mounted the bottle close enough so he can reach back and turn the bottle on from inside the car. One thing I do want to point out to you is all hatchbacks do need to purchase a blowdown tube kit. In the event that the bottle pressure gets too high, the disc will rupture and allow all the nitrous to spill out. You won't be able to see to drive. By installing a blowdown tube, it will route that spilled nitrous out of the vehicle so that way you can pull over and stop. As you can see, the bottle is facing forward, the valve is higher than the base. This is for maximum performance.
All right, we're going to drop a feed line from up here. We're going to follow these group of lines. We're going to run it over the exhaust, keeping it off the exhaust, run it around, and we're going to bring it right up to the front of the motor. Now what we want to stress here is when putting the feed line on here, keep it away from the dry shaft suspension, any moving parts. And definitely when we come over here, Mike, I think we need to tie wrap it up here on the lines just to keep the feed line off the exhaust, because this could be dangerous.
Right, Kyle. There's no problem running the feed line above it as long as it's not touching the exhaust. Well, let's get it done.
Okay.
All right, Kyle, we've got the feed line ran to the front of the car.
Now we need to get ready to start mounting the solenoid assembly.
Well, Kyle, now that we've got the feed line ran to the front of the car, let's go ahead and mount the solenoids.
All right.
I think a great location will be right here on this stud.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the best bet.
Okay, let's use this 10mm socket and ratchet to take this nut off. Get it nice and snug, but not so tight that you can't move it. I over tighten it a little bit. Let's loosen it up just so that way we can, okay. Let's leave it a little loose so we can move it around.
All right. Now that we got the solenoid bracket on, Mike, let's take the feed line and put it on the inlet side of the nitrous solenoid.
All right, piece of cake. Let's keep everything loose until we're ready to tighten everything up.
Sounds good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to locate the fuel rail. Here, as you can see the fuel rail, we're going to come in off of the Schrader valve. Now there's a Schrader valve inside of that fitting. What we have here is a Schrader valve tool. You're going to simply install the tool inside of the fitting, unscrew the Schrader valve, pull it out. Now that you pull it out, what we're going to do is we're going to take our 20-inch fuel line, connect it to the factory fuel rail, and now we're going to take it and put it on the inlet side of the fuel solenoid.
And guys, if you don't have a valve stem remover, you can pick one up at any local auto supply for under $2 or $3. It's the same tool used to take a valve stem out of a tire.
Next thing we're going to do is do a nozzle location. First, we need to identify the throttle body. For this wet kit single nozzle application, we want to come back about 4 to 5 inches away from the throttle body, and I think, Mike, that's where we're going to want to put that nozzle.
Let's put that puppy right here.
We'll just put a little white mark and get ready for drill. Now that we've drilled our hole with a 1/2-inch drill bit, we're going to install the nozzle holder. Now, as you can see, the male end of the nozzle holder is going to go on the inside of the boot. When you press it in, take the nut and screw it onto the male end of the nozzle holder. Once you've got it on there, take your 2 crescent wrenches and tighten them up.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. All right, Mike, now that we have the nozzle fitting installed, ready to go, we're ready to put the nozzle into the nozzle fitting. As you can see, take your nozzle. If you look at it, there's an outlet side of the nozzle. It's facing in the fuel direction. That flow needs to go towards the motor in the same direction as airflow. So we're going to stick the nozzle in, screw it in, get it hand tight, take your crescent wrench, and tighten it up.
All right, let's do it.
All right, Mike, now that we've got the nozzle in, let's go ahead and put the hoses to the solenoids. Get them hand tight. Remember, no Teflon paste is needed on a hose connector.
Okay. Let's go ahead and install the jets.
All right. Now remember, if you look at your jet pack, it will tell you what size jet will go with what combination, nitrous and fuel. For this application, we're going to put 100 horsepower in it. So we'll install the proper jets.
That would be a 52 on the nitrous and a 29 on the fuel.
We're going to go ahead and install the hoses on the nozzle.
Let's snug it up. Well, Kyle, one thing I would like to cover for our viewers is there's only really one difference between a single nozzle installation on a GM product and a Ford product. All Ford products will require the installation of a Schrader valve adapter. So when you buy a kit for a Mustang, for instance, you will need to locate your Schrader valve adapter, and that will screw into the fuel rail.
Let's remind everybody that it will come in your kit.
That's right. Kyle, Kyle, I think it's time to locate the throttle and determine a good location for the installation of the wide open throttle switch.
Right. Here's going to be your micro switch, your wide open throttle switch. We've already pre-bent the bracket for the micro switch because some bending is going to be required since this is a universal bracket for the wide open throttle switch. What we're going to do is I just want to quickly go over some electrical port of the micro switch. If you notice, we have one port connector on the bottom right here. We're going to put that to ground. The middle connector is going to go to a relay. So what we're going to do is pre-assemble this, go ahead and mount it on the motor, and the wires will already be ready to run.
And I think we can use this bottom bolt right down there for the mounting.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Well, Kyle, now that we've got the wide open throttle switch mounted, we need to go ahead and check to be sure that we're getting contact. Let's get Albert in there to mash that pedal.
All right.
Alberto, get in the car.
As you can see, at holding the wide open throttle, it hits the arm of the micro switch, making sure that there's good contact. That's what's going to fire off your solenoids.
Looks like we've got good contact. Let's move forward. Well, Kyle, now that we've installed the bottle, ran the feed line to the front of the car, installed the solenoids, the nozzle, we've tapped into the fuel rail, and installed the wide open throttle switch, let's go ahead and snug up all of our connections and make sure everything's good and tight.
Right. That will be the completion of the hardware plumbing kit.
Let's do it. Okay, let's go ahead and start the wiring. Let's cover a few things first. As you recall in the video, we have already taken one wire from each solenoid and taken it to ground. As well, we had already grounded the micro switch. Okay, what we have here is your toggle switch. The first pole goes to 12 volt power. Your middle pole goes to 86 on the relay. The relay is marked with all the numbers on the back side. This last pole on the toggle switch goes directly to ground. Number 87 to the relay goes to the other two wires on your solenoid. 85 to the middle pole on your micro switch. And number 30 directly to 12 volt power with a 30 amp fuse. Now that we've covered all this, let's go ahead and get it wired up. Okay, what we have here is a mock-up of a wet kit that is already on a car. You've got your nozzle, the two braided hoses to the outputs of the solenoids, the fuel and the nitrous solenoid. As you can see, the feed line is going to the input side of the nitrous solenoid. With a purge kit, your standard purge kit comes with the adapter fitting, the nipple, and the adapter that connects it to the poly line. You simply remove the feed line from the nitrous solenoid. The adapter screws onto the inlet side of the fitting for the nitrous solenoid, and then your feed line simply screws on to that adapter. Keep in mind this is just a mock-up, so it's easy to see. And we're going to cover a few other details about the purge kit. Obviously, earlier in the video we covered the Teflon paste. Be sure to put Teflon paste on all pipe threads before you assemble. In addition, this is an 1/8 inch MPT male to 1/8 inch compression fitting. The way this operates is you simply remove the fitting, take your polyline tube that should be round, push it through the fitting and through the ferrule that's on the inside. Now you simply install the polyline into the fitting and tighten the nut. That's your basic install. The poly line is then ran to the location that you would like for the output to discharge the nitrous. Anywhere by the windshield, the fenders, you can get as creative as you'd like. Well, Kyle, it looks like we've got everything wired up.
Yeah, one last thing. Let's go ahead and hit this thing at wide open throttle. We can hear the solenoids click. That'll let us know that it's wired up properly.
Okay, let's go ahead. Wide open throttle. Oh yeah, they're activating. Well, man, it looks like we're ready to go out there and test this baby out.
Yep.
Well, let's go make a pass.
All right.
All right. Well, Kyle, now that we got this baby all wired up and ready to go, I think the customer's probably pretty eager to get in here and give it a shot.
Yeah, I think so. I can't wait to look at it.
I tell you, there was a few other little items that I installed while you weren't looking.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah, a couple hidden 2.5-pound bottles.
Come on now.
Oh yeah, check underneath that seat cushion.
Whoa! Somebody's gonna get a rude awakening on this little job.
Yes, sir.